So if you don't know, DC Comics rebooted all their titles and put out 52 new #1s. In this video series, I'm going over all 52. DC divided them into 7 categories, and tonight we're looking at the Batman books. And there's a lot of them. There's 11.
Batman.
This issue of Batman #1 was donated by Justin Later. Justin is a big fan of all the Batman movies, especially Batman from 1989. So, this is your basic Batman book. It's got everything you want out of a Batman book. What I would say my favorite part of this book is the art. Good art can make a decent book into a really good book, and I think that's what we have here. Here's an example. This is a 2-page spread of the Batcave. It's setting up all the storylines that are gonna continue throughout this book. I feel like we have a slightly younger Batman here than we're used to. It's especially evident when you look at when he's standing with the 3 Robins. He's had 3 Robins over no, he's had 4. He's had 4. One of them's dead. Look, here, that's supposed to be Dick Grayson right there, but like, he's pretty young. I enjoyed it. If I had to find an issue with it, it would be the issue I have with most books, and which is that it's only a part of the story. And this is why I don't really read comic books like individual issues. I like to buy trade paperbacks when it collects all the issues into one big story. I think reading one issue of a comic book is like going to the movies and watching 15 minutes and then leaving. If somebody did that, you'd think they were nuts. Like if they said to you, do you want to see the first few minutes of The Dark Knight Rises and then wait a bunch of months and then come back and see the rest of it? Oh, I guess they are doing that.
Detective Comics.
Detective Comics is the same thing as Batman. Both books are just a Batman book. It's like their flagship title, because like DC stands for Detective Comics, so it's like Detective Comics comics, because Batman was introduced in 1939 in an issue of Detective Comics. And then he got his own title. So now they have Detective Comics and they have Batman. We have to lose one of these. We can't drop Batman because that's his title. Why don't we drop Detective Comics? Well, no, we can't do that because we are Detective Comics. It's the name of our company. We can't cancel ourselves of the thing that we are. So what, do we just have 2 Batman books? Yeah. Well, then yeah, that's good, because then if people like Batman, they'll buy both books, so we just sell twice as many comics. Can't just be making only Batman books, because it's confusing. Isn't it confusing if you have different storylines all happening around at the same time? No, that's not confusing to me. So people just have to buy both comic books? Yeah. Or they could buy just one of them. I don't care. Okay, well, why only 2 Batman books? Why not 3?
Batman, The Dark Knight.
Okay, so this is a 3rd Batman book. Batman, The Dark Knight is, again, it's the same thing as Batman and Detective Comics. It has nothing to do with the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight. There's nothing about it that's darker in any way than Batman and Detective Comics. It has nothing to do with Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. It's just a name. Batman, Detective Comics, and Batman the Dark Knight might as well be called Batman Book 1, Batman Book 2, Batman Book 3. So if you go into a comic book store and say, I would like to get the comic book that is about Batman, be prepared to answer a series of follow-up questions. Or just read all three. Don't get confused. Maybe this book exists for the people who want to read a Batman book, but they don't like Batman or Detective Comics. Like, they like Batman comic books, but not those ones.
Batman and Robin.
So this is just like the first three Batman books, except it has Robin. Does Robin also appear in the regular Batman books? Yes, but with Batman and Robin, you're guaranteed some Robin. Now you have to ask yourself the question, which Robin is it? Because there have been 4 main Robins. Robin 1 was Dick Grayson. He was the original Robin, and then he retired of being Robin and became Nightwing. Robin 2 was Jason Todd, and he's not very well known. I'll get back to him. Robin 3 was Tim Drake. I don't know. He has become a character named Red Robin. So I guess it's very similar to Robin. There must be a lot of confusion among, like, just the criminals of Gotham. When you're in prison, it's probably slightly less embarrassing to say that you were arrested by Red Robin than it is to say that you were arrested by just regular Robin. And then Nightwing, that's better. And Batman is the best. If you say that you got arrested by Batman, then that's probably no one will mess with you. But if you were brought in by a 10-year-old, then you will be someone's property. You are no longer a human being. Your time in prison is not going to go well. And then Robin 4 is the current Robin, and that's Damian Wayne, who is the illegitimate son of Bruce Wayne. And now all these Robins happened over the natural course of decades of comic books, but I kind of feel bad for the writers because they have to maintain all these characters now within the lifespan of a relatively young Batman. So he's gone through 4 main Robins in what can only have been just a few years. After a while, people are going to get bored, and there's going to be more Robins. How many Robins could Batman credibly have? Because there's a lot of unrealistic things happening in the Batman comic books, but Batman recruiting a revolving door of just an army of children, like every day, people are going to be like, "What, Batman, what's going on?"
Batwoman.
Batwoman is a character who is similar to Batman, except she's a woman, and she's a lesbian, and she's Jewish. So lots of different fan bases coming together for this one character. People who have wanted a homosexual Batman or a Jew Batman. Batwoman, this is a title that sort of satisfies those curiosities. The only issue I've ever had with Batwoman is that they gave her Batman Beyond's logo, which is the red bat with the outspread wings, because, you know, I feel like certain images mean something, and this image that once meant teenage Batman from the future now means gay woman Batman who is Jewish, which is a slightly different message.
Batwing.
First reaction when you hear the term Batwing is, isn't that the name of Batman's flying vehicle? Yeah, it was. But now it's the name of this guy. Bruce Wayne had announced last year that he was the financial backer of Batman, and he was starting a company called Batman Incorporated to sponsor and train Batmans all around the world. And Batwing is the Batman of Africa, and he lives in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So this is just a black African Batman. This character reminds me a little bit of Steel, who was like a black kind of Superman spin-off character who tried to take over for Superman when Superman died. And they made the movie of Steel starring Shaq, who was a basketball player at the time. And that's not the one where he had magic powers. That was Kazam.
Batgirl.
This book was donated by Dennis Bernhard, who also donated Supergirl for the last episode. So I went over some details of this book in one of my San Diego Comic-Con videos. Apparently Barbara Gordon is going to be Batgirl again. She's been in a wheelchair for over 20 years. So now because of this DC Universe reboot, Barbara Gordon is going to get to walk again. But all her paralyzed fans aren't. This issue is mostly about Barbara Gordon being Batgirl again, and she just stops some crimes. It's mainly about her getting over the fact that she was in a wheelchair for 3 years, and she has to get used to being Batgirl again, and it's hard. The people who read this book who were in wheelchairs for years and then regained the ability to walk and then returned to extremely dangerous lifestyles will probably identify with this story a lot. It covers through flashbacks all the backstory you need. Hopefully they eventually get past this sort of her having to deal with all the difficulties of having been in a wheelchair, and it'll move on to more standard Batgirl storylines, like take advantage of the fact that you have a superhero who's a teenage girl. So maybe there's a story where she has to stop this, like, you know, like a drug trafficking cartel or like a sex slave cartel, but at the same time she also promised that to a boy that she has to go to the dance with him, and so she has to save the sex slaves, but she can't. She has to also be at the dance.
Nightwing.
So, like I said before, Nightwing is Dick Grayson, who was the first Robin, and now he's, last year Batman disappeared, was presumed dead, and Dick Grayson took over as Batman for a while, and now Bruce Wayne is back, so now Dick Grayson is back to being Nightwing. I didn't read this book, so I don't know what is... I can tell from the cover that the Nightwing emblem that used to be blue is now red. I don't know what significance there is to that, if any. I can't imagine what kind of person reads Nightwing, because why wouldn't you just read Batman, which is infinitely more interesting? It's gotta be that the only people who read Nightwing are the people who already read the several other Batman books. I think he just spends this whole book following around a circus. Maybe there's like circus freaks in the book. Maybe that's the draw. Nightwing is a poor man's Batman. The only interesting thing about Nightwing is that sometimes he is portrayed as being in a relationship with Batgirl. So I can't imagine myself ever voluntarily buying a Nightwing comic book. Nightwing is what you read when you've read everything else. I think I would rather read a Robin book than a Nightwing book. If anyone knows of any interesting arcs that there have ever been in a Nightwing title, please let me know. Leave it in the comments of this video. I want to see a book that is just about Nightwing that is worth reading, because I don't think it exists, and I don't think it will ever exist. And this is, I'm not knocking Nightwing, but, I mean, he sucks. He just looks totally uninteresting. And that's fair.
Catwoman.
This Catwoman #1 was donated by Carl Feiler. Carl is a big Catwoman fan. This is a very good book. I definitely want to read more books in this series. It's a very sexual book. Catwoman is just frequently in her bra. Here's the first panel of Catwoman #1. She's not above doing sexual things to achieve her ends. She will go undercover in sexual situations. And this book famously now ends with her having sex with Batman. And it's not like the old days where the two characters are going to have sex and it is implied. They just have sex for pages and we're watching it. It's rare for a villain to get their own book, but Catwoman is really more of an anti-hero, which means she's not a villain, but she is a criminal, but she sort of operates under her own moral code, and she is extremely damaged, which is pretty cool.
Birds of Prey.
This book was donated by Anonymous. Birds of Prey is about a group of female heroes operating in Gotham City as sort of like a covert ops team. I think there was maybe a little bit of controversy with this because one of the people they recruited into the team is Poison Ivy, who is a villain. And if you don't understand why that was controversial, a way I could explain it is maybe if you like sports and there's if an athlete from your team that you like went to the team that your team has a feud with, it's like that. There was a Birds of Prey TV show in 2002 that lasted one season on the WB. It was kind of an unremarkable show, but you watched it because it was very tangentially related to Batman. And so in that way, it is a lot like this comic book. I give this book a grade of okay. As in, okay, I get it.
Red Hood and the Outlaws.
This book was donated by me because I just had to read it. Okay, so you may recall in the first video of this DC New 52 7-video series, I said that I would tell you something in the third video. I think the worst death they ever undid is not one I'm going to say now. I'm going to tell you it in the third video. So that'll make you come back. Don't you want to know what I think is the worst fictional death that they... And then you remember earlier in this video I said I would talk to you about Jason Todd. Robin 2 was Jason Todd, and he's not very well known. I'll get back to him. Jason Todd, he was just some street punk who was vandalizing the Batmobile. Batman took him in and made him the second Robin. And he was a huge pain in the ass. So DC decided to have a vote to see if Jason Todd would die. And so Batman comic book readers had to call a phone number, and there was like over 10,000 votes. And by an extremely small margin, something like 72 votes, it was decided by the readers of DC Comics that Jason Todd would die. So the Joker beats him to death with a crowbar. And this stuck for so long, they never brought him back to life. It served as a constant reminder that it's dangerous to have a kid as a sidekick, and it became a cool thing that would haunt Batman for all these years. And I thought that was great because I never liked it when Batman had a kid as a sidekick. I could never get past the idea of a 10-year-old punching a man. But eventually they invented some bullshit and they brought Jason Todd back to life. And he became a sort of villain, anti-hero type of character called the Red Hood. When he came back, he was angry at Batman for letting him die. I don't see why he's that angry since he's alive now, but whatever. He's very dangerous because he knows everything about Batman. He's received all the training from Batman, and he now operates basically like a more ruthless Batman with guns. And he knows all of Batman's secrets, so he likes to fuck with Batman a lot, and Batman can't do anything about it. So you have this group now where it's the Red Hood. You have Roy Harper, who is like Green Arrow's reject sidekick, who was once addicted to heroin. And you have the alien Starfire. Apparently her sister once traded her into slavery. She has a horrible past. She used to be, I think, with the Teen Titans or something, but she like has no memory of it because Tamaranians apparently have just a short memory span when it comes to humans because they kind of look down on humans and don't care about them. There was some controversy with this book because in the first issue, Starfire is already in a sexual relationship with Jason Todd, and then she just has sex with Roy Harper. So she will just have sex with either one of them and doesn't care. She just does it for mild amusement, and it's a very cold, cynical act. And the controversy came from young girls will read this and they'll get a poor role model. It's dumb to worry about what kids are going to think is an appropriate role model, because I think the child with the good head on her shoulders is going to realize that she should be looking up to, Wonder Woman or Batgirl, and not the alien slut who is fucking the two douchebags. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about all the Batman titles in the DC New 52. Make sure to leave me lots of comments, and I will respond to them. And make sure to subscribe to my channel and get notifications when I post my videos. And make sure to donate on the PayPal. And maybe you're thinking, wait, you've already done 26 of the 52 books. There's 26 left. What if these videos go viral and everyone really loves them and wants to give me money donations so I can buy the rest of the books, and I end up getting more money donations than there are books left? I don't think this is going to be a problem.